Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to try and tie together some pretty big ideas.
Yeah, should be interesting.
So we're going to be looking at the nature of reality, self-discovery, and believe it or not, how that can help us find a better work-life balance.
Definitely some unexpected connections we'll be exploring.
We've got some Alan Watts for you and some very practical guides, too.
A little philosophy, a little practical advice, hopefully a good mix.
Let's dive in. Okay, so first up is Alan Watts, specifically his book on the taboo against knowing who you are.
Right, one of his classic.
And he really dives right into this idea of we create an illusion of the ego.
Yeah, that feeling that we're a separate self kind of trapped inside looking out at the world.
Exactly.
And Watts argues that this sense of separation, this feeling of separation, is at the root of so much struggle.
Interesting.
It's like we're constantly battling against reality instead of being a part of it.
Like we're trying to swim upstream instead of just going with the flow.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And Watts doesn't mince words. He even calls this feeling a hallucination.
Wow, a hallucination.
That's right, this idea that we're fundamentally separate from everything around us.
I like that.
He uses a really powerful analogy to illustrate this.
Oh.
He says we experience ourselves as like a separate center.
Okay.
And that center is confronting an external world.
I see.
It's almost as if we've built this wall between ourselves and everything else.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we wonder why we feel so isolated or alone.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and look at how Watts connects this idea of the ego that separates self to our relationships with other people.
Sounds good.
In The Meaning of Happiness, he pulls in some stuff from ecology to explore how everything's interconnected.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so he emphasizes that in the natural world, no organism exists in isolation.
Right, it's all about relationships.
Everything is interconnected, relying on this interplay of, opposing forces. And Watts suggests that this applies to our relationships with other people, too.
Makes you think about that saying, iron sharpens iron.
Oh.
We need a bit of friction, even from people we might consider our competitors, to help us grow.
To push us, help us reach our full potential.
Exactly. And Watts, he takes this even further with one of his more, I'd say, provocative ideas.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
He says, love your competitors.
Love your competitors. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. We really rely on those opposing forces to challenge us.
To make us better.
Exactly. Now, get ready because things are about to take a turn for the, I guess you could say, mystical in Watts' book, Joyous Cosmology.
Oh, I love that title. Joyous Cosmology.
He describes having a profound experience under the influence of LSD.
Oh.
And the separation between himself and the world completely dissolved.
Wow, that's intense.
It really is. And in this state, he perceived everything as this unified pattern of action, a kind of cosmic dance, you could say. Those boundaries between subject and object, between himself and everything else, they just blurred.
Yeah.
And he felt this profound sense of oneness with the universe.
I can see how that would be a life-changing experience.
Absolutely. He even talks about, for instance, how he saw a tangled garden.
A garden, okay.
But he saw it as this perfectly ordered arabesque, like a beautiful design.
It's amazing how our perception can shift like that.
It really is. And he talks about how music in that state was pure expression of joy.
Pure joy.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, have you ever experienced anything like that, where the lines between you and the world just seem to disappear?
I've had glimpses, maybe moments of awe in nature, but nothing quite that profound, I don't think.
It's a fascinating glimpse into a reality that goes beyond our everyday perception, beyond that feeling of separateness that Watts argues is actually an illusion.
Okay, so this is all super fascinating, but some listeners out there might be thinking, that's great, but how does this apply to my everyday life, to my work? Especially when I'm trying to find some kind of balance.
Right, good point.
And that's where our next source comes in. Win at work and succeed at life.
This one's a bit more down to earth.
It's all about practical advice.
Strategies for achieving that double win everybody wants.
Success in work and your personal life.
Exactly. And a big part of that, according to this book, is understanding the importance of rest and rejuvenation.
Yeah, we all need to recharge sometimes.
It's not just about relaxing. It's about stepping back from that achievement mode we get stuck in.
So we can actually be more productive and creative when we come back.
Right. In fact, the author shares an anecdote about a high-achieving executive who was feeling totally burnt out.
Makes sense.
Super successful on paper.
Yeah.
But he had to take a break Forced break, actually.
Oh,
And that's when he had this breakthrough idea for a new software solution.
wow.
Sometimes stepping away from a problem actually helps you find a solution.
It's like you need that mental space to see things clearly.
Exactly. So it's not about becoming lazy or anything. It's about recognizing that rest, real rest, is actually essential for success. Okay, so now let's look at how we can take this concept of rest and apply it to teams. That's where Teams Workbook comes in.
All right, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Something like that. So this book introduces something called the full focus system.
Full focus system. Okay.
It's a whole set of tools and practices for teams to use so they can achieve that double win we were talking about.
I like it.
The key is aligning individual goals with what the team is trying to accomplish.
That makes a lot of sense.
One of their main tools is the Freedom Compass.
The Freedom Compass. Interesting.
Helps people on the team identify the tasks that'll have the biggest impact
Okay.
and make sure those tasks also align with their passions and skills.
I can see how that would make people feel more engaged
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all about making sure everyone is working on the right things.
and feeling good about it.
Yeah. Another big thing they emphasize is structuring your week intentionally.
Structuring your week.
Yeah, they call it the ideal week.
That sounds kind of utopian.
Maybe, but it's about designing your schedule in a way that maximizes your productivity,
Okay.
but also make sure there's enough time for rest and rejuvenation.
Getting that balance right.
Exactly. So instead of letting your week control you, you're in charge.
I like that.
Now, this might be a good time to bring Alan Watts back into the conversation. See how his ideas fit with these practical strategies for work-life balance.
All right, back to Watts. I'm game.
His book, Tao, The Watercourse Way, he explores the wisdom of Taoism.
Taoism. Interesting.
It's an ancient philosophy, and it emphasizes aligning with the natural flow of things.
I'm curious to hear how that connects to modern work-life balance.
Well, the heart of it is this concept of wu wei.
Wu Wei. What's that?
It means effortless action, or action without forcing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about working with the natural rhythm of things, not against it. And this idea, it actually lines up really well with that full focus system and the ideal week from Teams Workbook.
So it's all about finding that flow, that rhythm that works for you and your team instead of trying to force things to happen.
You got it. And Watts actually shares a really great story to explain this idea of wu wei in Tao, the watercourse way.
Oh, I love a good story. Lay it on me.
It's about this master woodcarver who makes these incredibly lifelike animal sculptures.
Okay.
I mean, people actually mistake them for real animals.
That's pretty impressive. I'm guessing there's a deeper meaning here than just amazing wood carving, though.
You got it. The point is, the woodcarver is so skilled,
Yeah.
so attuned to the nature of the wood itself, the essence of the animal he's creating, his work just flows effortlessly.
Hmm.
It's like he's not forcing his will on the wood at all,
Interesting.
but he's working in harmony with it.
Almost like he's letting the wood speak through him or something.
That's a great way to put it. So it's not about brute force, right?
All right.
It's not about bending the world to our will.
It's about finding that sweet spot where our actions are aligned with the natural flow of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this ties back to that double win idea we were talking about earlier. Achieving success, but in a way that feels, I don't know, natural.
Sustainable.
Yeah, working smarter, not just harder. Finding a rhythm that supports both our professional goals and our personal well-being.
So how do we actually cultivate this wu-wei approach in our own lives? Should we all take up wood carving?
Oh, well, wood carving's not a bad idea, but the real key is to pay more attention to our own natural rhythms.
Our natural rhythm.
Yeah, ask yourself, what energizes me?
Okay.
What drains me? What tasks feel effortless? And which ones feel like I'm constantly swimming upstream?
Makes sense.
It's all about self-awareness.
Tapping into our own internal compass to figure out what really aligns with who we are and what we want.
Exactly. And sometimes I think the most effective action is actually inaction.
Inaction.
Knowing when to step back, rest, recharge, let things unfold.
That's a tough one though, right? Our culture is so obsessed with productivity, achievement. It's hard to give ourselves permission to just rest.
For sure. But pushing ourselves to the point of burnout is not the answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most productive thing we can do is actually step away.
Yeah, give ourselves some space to think.
Exactly. To reflect, recharge.
Yeah.
We need to reclaim rest as a vital part of a fulfilling and productive life, not some sign of weakness.
And this isn't just about individual rest, right? It's about creating a culture of rest within teams and organizations.
You're absolutely right. Burnout can impact everyone. And preventing it, well, that benefits both the individual and the team as a whole.
It's a win-win.
We need to shift away from this always-on mentality
Yeah.
towards something more sustainable, like strategically engaged.
Being more intentional with our energy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Individually and collectively. Recognizing that pauses and reflection and rejuvenation are actually part of the path to success.
This all reminds me of something Alan Watts said about defying conventional morality.
Oh, yeah.
He said, living authentically might mean going against what society tells us we should be doing.
Sometimes you got to break the rules.
Yeah.
And that connects so well with that freedom compass idea from Team's workbook.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Where our passion and our skills intersect, where we can really excel and make a meaningful contribution.
It's like finding those tasks and activities that actually energize us, that feel more like play than work, even though it is work.
Yeah.
Creating a work environment where people can really operate within their own freedom compass, where they can leverage their unique talents and passions to achieve both individual and team success. Imagine a team where everyone's working on things they love or are great at.
Sounds amazing. And it just highlights how important diversity is.
For sure.
Not just in terms of background.
But also different skills, different passions.
Right. Everyone bringing something unique to the table.
And feeling valued for those unique contributions. Feeling like they can bring their whole selves to work.
This is starting to feel like a pretty big shift in how we think about work and success and even happiness,
Yeah.
Moving away from this model of scarcity and competition
Towards something else.
towards abundance, collaboration.
I like that.
It's like we're starting to see that our own well-being is completely connected to the well-being of other people.
And the health of the planet, too.
Exactly. It all comes back to that fundamental question that Alan Watts poses in On the Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are.
Right.
If our sense of separateness is an illusion, if we're all actually part of this larger interconnected web of existence.
Well, then the question becomes, how do we live knowing that?
Yeah.
How do we live knowing that we're all connected? Really of the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How to live knowing we're all connected. I think each of us has to figure that out in our own way, but the sources we've looked at today, they give us some clues at least. Point us toward a way of being that's maybe more harmonious, more fulfilling, and ultimately, more joyful.
It's like we're being shown this whole new way of seeing ourselves, our work, our place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, it gets us a little closer to understanding those mystical experiences that Alan Watts described.
Right. Those glimpses beyond the everyday.
You know how he talked about seeing a tangled garden as this perfectly ordered arabesque, or hearing music as pure expression of joy.
Yeah, those experiences, those moments, they often come from things like meditation or, as Watts explored, psychedelics. They point to something beyond our normal way of seeing things. A reality where the boundaries between ourselves and everything else, they just kind of dissolve.
It is pretty radical when you think about it. It makes you wonder, though. What if that sense of separateness, what if it really is an illusion? What if we are all just expressions of one unified consciousness?
That really challenges how we think about being an individual.
For sure.
Makes us question what reality even is.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just this world of separate objects and events we experience? Or is there something deeper connecting us all?
It's like we're trying to peek behind the curtain and see how it all works.
Yeah.
Even if we can't fully grasp it, just considering the possibility can change how we live.
Absolutely. I mean, if we even just entertain the idea that the universe is this unified process, like Watts said,
Yeah.
and that our sense of being a separate self, that's the illusion. Well, it changes everything. How we approach work, relationships, our purpose in the world, it all takes on a whole new dimension.
It's like we're being asked to rethink our entire operating system.
Question the assumptions that drive how we think, how we feel, how we act.
And that can be kind of scary.
It can be, yeah. But it can also be incredibly liberating. Because when we start to let go of that illusion of separateness, embrace the interconnectedness of everything, well, that opens up a whole new way of being.
We go from scarcity to abundance, from competition to collaboration.
Exactly.
It's like we start to see that our own well-being, it's totally bound up with the well-being of others.
Yeah.
And the health of the planet.
You got it. It's a huge shift in perspective. And it has the potential to change not just our own lives, but society as a whole.
Instead of domination and exploitation, we start to see the value in harmony, in sustainability. We realize we're all in this together, And our future, it depends on our ability to cooperate, to care for each other in this planet we call home.
Well said.
So this deep dive has taken us from the philosophy of Alan Watts to some really practical strategies for teamwork and success. We've explored the illusion of the ego, the interconnectedness of everything, and the power of aligning with the natural flow of life.
We've covered a lot of ground.
It's like we've been putting together a puzzle, connecting these pieces of wisdom from ancient philosophy, modern psychology, and practical tips for a better work-life balance.
Yeah.
And the picture that emerges, well, it's pretty beautiful, and it definitely makes you think.
It does, and it leaves us with a lot to consider. How do we take these insights and actually use them in our own lives? How do we embrace this interconnectedness and find that sense of harmony, both within ourselves and in the world around us?
These are questions worth asking, and we hope you'll keep exploring these ideas, see what resonates with you, share your own insights, because ultimately this journey of self-discovery and understanding our place in the universe, well, we're all taking it together.
Until next time, keep diving deep, everyone.